Yo, what's up? And welcome to episode 114 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Rob Clayton, and joining me back from our holiday is Woody V. How's it going, mate?
What's good, Robbie? So the intro music's going to be playing today, right?
It will be, yes. We had to do a pretty rough editing job overseas. We didn't have our normal sort of tools at our disposal there. But before we get into it, how was the holiday? You had fun?
Man, it was awesome. Spending time with you and Rachel, and we had such a memorable time. And it's a fond memory that we'll look back on for the rest of our lives, right?
100%. I think, like we mentioned as well, it was great sort of going to three very different places. LA was so different to Atlanta. Vegas was so different to Atlanta. So all three places were quite different. I think we both loved the Atlanta leg of it, right? Seeing three NBA games in 4 nights was pretty special. I know a few people that have, seen our socials that were at that Hawks versus Celtics game that we won in overtime there. So how special was that game there? It's not something we were ever going to forget, right?
Unreal, man. One of the greatest moments of my life. And actually Atlanta had so much culture to it as well outside of, going to the games. I really enjoyed this.
They loved us there, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Did I spend too much at the Hawks team store or not?
I think you spent
probably a predictable amount, right?
Quite a bit. You spent quite a bit at the Clippers team store as well, man.
Yeah,
right?
Well, when you're there, you got to do it. But yeah,
sure,
nice. Well, great to be back on our sort of home base anyway. Just a reminder, please make sure you continue to like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube. We passed 5,000 subs last week, which was great work, and we're really sort of appreciative of everyone's support there. If you're not already, please make sure you rate and subscribe and all those sort of good things. So, all right, let's kick it off. I see you've got the Hawks theme, so we've got the double Hawks today. Anyone wasn't sure who we're going for, will certainly know. But yeah, what do you got for us today? The Woods is rocking the old school Spud Webb jersey with his lovely dog Skittles in the background. Skittles is like, what is he doing? Standing up doing that. But yeah, I'm liking that one, mate.
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a few Spud Webb jerseys we saw at Atlanta while we were at the games as well. I mean, he sometimes gets slept on a little bit because he didn't have that body of achievements that Dominique did. But when you think of that era, you think of Spud Webb. Well, Anthony Jerome Spud Webb. He spent... he was the 87th pick in the 4th round of the 85 draft. His career lasted from 85 to 98. Played with the Atlanta Hawks, Sacramento Kings, back with the Atlanta Hawks, and then finished off with short stints at Minnesota and the Orlando Magic. His career highlight was that slam dunk contest in 1986.
Yeah.
But you look at some of the seasons he had. I mean, in Sacramento in that first season, 91-92, 16 points, 7 assists per game, nearly 2 steals. He was not far off being an all-star selection. So talk to me a little bit about Spud Webb. And when you talk about popular culture and you think about the impact that he's had on the game, being a short man at just 5'6" tall, winning the dunk contest, he's had a huge influence on basketball.
I think for me, he probably doesn't get the credit that he deserves. I think people probably think he was a bit more of a novelty factor, but you're absolutely right. That, first season in Sacramento, he just was killing it that year. He's got a very good highlight package. If you look at that, he wasn't just putting up highlights in dunk competitions there. But yeah, I think he did a lot for the game. He was certainly someone that did inspire people, off the court to show that, hey, I'm not very tall, or I'm not, particularly, like someone that's got all this athleticism, like in a tall sort of guy. But, he showed he was a shorter guy, but he was super athletic. He was fast. He was a skilled player, wasn't he? And obviously very loved in Atlanta. You mentioned he had that second stint there. He was someone that, all those guys around that time speak fondly of him. I've heard, Dominic speak about him, or Doc Rivers, all those sort of guys like that. So haven't actually heard about him for a while, actually. Seems to be a guy that's a little bit like out of the limelight. Do you know anything that he's up to these days?
He's working for the G League now from memory, man.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
I'll just double check that for you, but I'm almost certain that he is.
Yeah, Is there a sneaky chance, Woods, that jersey's fake that you're wearing, by the way?
No, it's
legit?
Hardwood Classics Adidas, man.
It's legit. I know that era of jerseys is one of the most counterfeited ones, as you know, sort of thing. So I was just checking. I wasn't like assuming it was, but I know what that era of jerseys, there are a lot of fakes going around. So just thought I'd check.
1919, the years. This should be the real one, right?
I wouldn't say I'm 100% sure, but I'll if you're happy that it's real, then I'll go with you there.
Yeah. Maybe. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so just coming back to that, he's the president of basketball operations for the NBA G League right now, so he's busy. Yeah,
Nice. No, that's a good one. I know you mentioned overseas that you hadn't worn that on the show and you wanting to wear it. So yeah, I'm loving the matching outfit there. So I thought I'd continue the Hawks theme as well, Woods, but I don't really have a lot prepared for these. I just wanted to sort of show 2 jerseys that I got overseas on our travels actually. So I ended up with 5 jerseys on the trip. So we went to 5 games. I ended up with 5 jerseys. So if my maths is right, then that's 1 jersey per game, right? So just the one Clippers jersey. It was a Norm Powell jersey. I know we really liked seeing him in both those games. We loved the court announcer saying Norm Powell. That was quite good. We got a bit of a kick out of that every time he scored. I think he might have gone for 20 points, 20 plus in both those games we saw. So he was actually really impressive, I thought. So everyone knows 24 is my favourite number. I kind of thought it was cool getting a 24 jersey in 2024 when we did our trip. So that's the Norm Powell jersey hanging up there. That one's probably slightly too big. The one I'm going to show you wearing is probably slightly too small. So just did the best we could with sizes. But I'll stand up and show you the one I'm rocking today anyway.
Yep, and for those who can't see, Robbie's wearing the Hawks 24 Bruno Fernando jersey. That's as random as it gets, right? Bruno,
you like that one, right?
Baby.
Another one of my man crushes these days, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So look a little bit about Bruno Fernando. So he was drafted by Philly and then traded onto the Hawks. So he was with the Hawks a couple of seasons there. He's the first ever player to come out of Angola, which is pretty cool there. One of those guys, he's 6'9", 109 kilos. He seems bigger than that to me. He seems like he's one of the biggest sort of guys on the court. So look, after he left the Hawks, he had a bit of time in the G League, played with the Celtics as well, and played with the Rockets. We actually got him traded back to us, Woods, and I thought this is a bit of a steal of a trade. So essentially we traded Justin Holiday and Frank Kaminsky, who we spoke about on the trip, who's out of the league these days. We got Garrison Matthews and Bruno Fernando back in that trade. So both those guys have really found a home in Atlanta there. Bruno Fernando's only 25 years of age, so he's probably still touching the surface of how he can be there. He had a pretty solid college career at Maryland there. So I believe he may be out of contract at the end of this season. So I think he's earned himself a pretty solid next contract, right? Hopefully it'll be with the Hawks, but you never know. It's hard, obviously. We've got, Okongwu and Clint Capella there, so he's only going to be third there, even though one of those two seems to get injured a bit. So he may end up going somewhere else and looking to, get I don't think he's ever going to be a starter in the league, but certainly, in that rotation and maybe as a backup centre. But he's been great this year, right?
Plays with a lot of energy and heart. He's that guy that you want coming off the bench and just, working with that second unit. And we've seen that when he's got that opportunity late in the season with some injuries, he's been able to play more minutes than he normally would. And he's taken advantage of that. It's all about, we've said this, it's all about timing and opportunity in this league. And if you get an opportunity presented to yourself, you've got to take it. And Bruno's taken that. And as you said, he's not going to be a starter in this league, but someone's going to find a spot for him as a backup.
He's a fan favourite too, isn't he? He's really sort of popular. The team likes him as well. Was this the only Bruno Fernando jersey we saw in the stadium? I think it possibly could have been, right?
The only one I saw, and while we're on the subject, that Norm Powell jersey that sits behind you, it wasn't easy to get, man. We had to go around to a lot of different teams.
We had to go for a lot, yeah. It was there was a lot of the big three. There wasn't a lot of Westbrook jerseys. In fact, I don't think there was any Westbrook jerseys. So it was the big three for the Clippers, and then we saw a Man jersey and we saw a Norm Powell one. So they only had them in random extra large sizes. So I was pleased to get that one there. I like getting those random players, and thought it was pretty cool in our trip in 2024 to get 2 jerseys at a number 24, which is also my favourite number. So that's a bit of a theme with that one. But look, I'll probably show some of those other jerseys I've got over the next few episodes as well. I've completely run out of wardrobe space, Wood, so it's a good job I'm moving in a few weeks. I've run out of wardrobe space, I've run out of hangers, so I need to get things a little bit more sorted. But I think when I move to the new place, I'm going to really try and get these all sorted out and in some sort of order as well, because they've kind of just all grown into all being on top of each other and they're hard to find. So that'll be a big job for me there. Nice. All right, well, that was fun, Wood. So I feel like we've got a fair bit to talk about this week. I know we've sort of done these on-location episodes the last couple of weeks and spoken about more what we're doing, but I thought we'd start off with the NBL this week. Obviously, the NBL season's now finished. Massive congrats to the Tassie Jack Jumpers for winning that 5-game series 3-2. How good was this series, Woods, and do you think that the best team eventually won it?
I do think so. Over a 5-game series, it was very close. I think the last 3 games were decided by a couple of points, right? And there was an opportunity on the buzzer on the last 3 games for someone to to take a victory. That's incredible. But I think if you look at across the whole series, marginally Tasmania were the better team. I mean, the cattle, the resources Melbourne had were on paper superior, right?
Yeah.
But Tasmania are really well coached, and the sum of the parts, right? Whether it be Majok Deng or Jordan Crawford had a quiet series, but had a massive game 5. Jack McVeigh, rightly crowned MVP. Milton Doyle at separate times. Shawnee Mack, right? Different guys would step up at different time. It's like no one person is bigger than the team in Tasmania. That's the culture that's been set there by Scott Roth, and that came out in this series with different people stepping up at different times, them combined together to beat that powerhouse Melbourne United. No, everyone was saying Melbourne United, no one's beating them this year. No one's beating them. They got this. It's theirs to lose, right?
Yeah.
Championship. And the work that an expansion franchise in its first 3 years, you talk about finals against Sydney, semi-finals last year, and then third time they've won the championship, right? It's an incredible story that an expansion franchise can, have such success early on, right?
How much of that credit do you give for Scott Roth coaching that team for all 3 seasons?
A lot, because he set that culture there. And I've said before, guys that came in the past, like Josh Majette, etc., you talk about Jack McVeigh, the guys that have been there for 3 years, they even guys like Jared Bairstow on the bench, these guys are culture guys that they've brought into the team, to set a standard about character, no dickhead policy, basically, right?
Yeah.
We're bringing in guys that are high character. We're not recruiting guys necessarily on their skill set. We're recruiting guys on the kind of character of the individual they are. And it starts with Scott Roth and the front office to build that. And the dividends have paid off in this third year. And I think a lot of other ball clubs can look at that blueprint about, recruiting on character. As well as talent, right?
I think they really played that them versus us type of mentality really well. I think they were the underdog team. I think a lot of people at the start of the season, they certainly would have had Perth ahead, Sydney ahead, Melbourne ahead, maybe even New Zealand on some people's radars there. But I think they sort of had that underdog mentality. They sort of embraced the defend the island type thing like that. Their supporter and fan base are amazing as well. They really got behind them, and it's great to see the passion that they've got there. So I was really pleased. Look, we mentioned on the last few episodes, these games were pretty tough overseas to watch live. They were, 2:30 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. I know we were getting up at various stages in the night and trying to watch them. And I've watched all the replays of those games that we missed since I've left now. I love that game 5. I thought that was really entertaining. Different sort of people stepped up for Tassie, didn't they? I sort of thought all game, Doyle's been a bit quiet. And then he stepped up in the 4th and hit some really timely shots. You're right about Sean McDonald. He came on. He played some great defence there. He's a legit starter in this league, I think, now. They did it obviously without Marcus Lee. I mean, he would have made a big difference if he was there as well. And Magno was playing pretty hurt in those last few games. So, it was great to see. I think probably, unless you're a United fan, you probably were going for Tassie in that series. I think it's probably pretty safe to say, right?
I'll tell you something. A couple of seasons ago, United versus Tasmania in the semi-finals, right?
Yeah.
Melbourne blew them out in the first game, and Tasmania won game 2 in Tassie and came back to Melbourne with, and upset them in that third game. That was something that might have still been in their head from 2 years ago, and you'd think Melbourne have to be very disappointed about these last 3 years and the kind of you'd expect them to have won at least once in the last.
Well, a couple of minor premierships. I think at least 2 of those 3 years they were the minor premiers, the best regular season records, and they were loaded. I mean, probably at the start of the year we both would have said that they were the best team on paper. Sydney were very close, but that Melbourne team were just loaded at all positions. Even their second sort of 5 would have been as good as some teams there. So, I wanted to ask you a little bit, Woods, as well, where you sort of see both of these teams going, right, in terms of next season.
Sure.
Maybe we'll start with Tasmania, given we've been talking about them. What do you think they do? Do you think they'll obviously really try and run it back? Do you think they'll be able to? Do you think guys potentially prices have gone up and everything? But what do you see them doing there?
Well, I'm sure a lot of these guys are already. I mean, Jack McVeigh's coming back. Anthony Drimmick is coming back. Milton Doyle is coming back. Shawnee Mack, I think, is already under contract. Majok Deng has re-upped from what I read the other day, right? So that's like 4 or 5 of guys already coming back. I think Jordan Crawford, his play was up and down, but I think what he did in that game 5 is just seal the deal. He's going to come back, right? These guys want to run it back. I think a lot of that nucleus will come back. And I think they'll want to. It's just a great part. great place to be. You know, Milton Doyle came out and said, "I believe I am Tasmanian. I wouldn't mind spending my whole career here and look at naturalizing." Right, so
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me if as I said, already 4 or 5 guys have come back. Wouldn't surprise me if you get 7 or 8 of those guys back on that roster. Fabian Krislovich is under contract, I think, as well. So
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Well, I'll ask you that same question for Melbourne Woods, and that's I should say at the time of recording, Tuesday, the 5th of April, there was some pretty big news out of United today. Not sure if you've seen that news there, but do you know what I'm talking about there?
No, I've been so busy at work all day, man. Fill me in.
So your boy JLA, bye-bye. He's declined his player option. He wants to go and play in Europe next season. So that is a massive loss for United there. Obviously, they're going to lose Huck Porty. I mean, I'd say would be a lock to be drafted, somewhere in the second round in the NBA draft. So they're losing both their big men there. What do you think Melbourne will sort of do, and what do you think they need to do going back into next season?
Well, I was actually going to say to you when you asked me what does Melbourne do moving forward, I was like, I don't think JLA is coming back. He's going to look for opportunities overseas.
Fair enough,
so,
yeah.
Like I'm not surprised there. Look, a club like Melbourne United have recruited in a way that, you know, these guys aren't long term. You know, Chris Golding, he's part of the furniture there, but he's another year older. He's 36, right? Luke Travis, who knows what's going to happen with him, right? He could have opportunities overseas. Potentially an NBA call-up, who knows, right? I don't expect to see LT back in Melbourne. Delhi's a funny one. He really loves being in United, and I think his dreams of playing in the NBA have possibly come to an end. Although he is drawing interest at the moment from some NBA clubs, and from all reports, he's in NBA right. He's in America right now, hoping that an NBA team will call him up for the playoff run. So
interesting, is that right?
Delhi. Yeah, 100%. He's in America now, working out. He's had interest there. So, I think they're going to do a bit of a retool. I mean, Shea Illy, you know, will possibly come back.
Imports as well, right? That's probably something they need to look into, you know, obviously without having the imports this year. They probably need to even if you do try and get a gun import and try and get a role-playing import, you need to replace the big guys firstly and just try and shore up that team. I think I saw Tanner Krebs is coming back. A couple of the lesser sort of guys aren't. But, I think you're right. There will be some roster turnover. The Travis one's interesting, isn't it? Do you expect that he'll be back? I'm still not quite sure whether he will get this NBA call-up, but we'll see, right?
Even if he doesn't, I think he's best off developing his game elsewhere, right? And doing a bit of like what Dante Exum did, going to Europe or somewhere else. I also, I think a guy like Ian Clark is worth retaining. He was so good this year.
Sorry, they did have the one import. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. No, I think it's worth like signing him to a long-term deal. He loves being in Australia. He's played for 3 separate clubs, Sydney, Adelaide, and Melbourne. It's worth just locking him up. And this whole one import situation doesn't work for me, right? You've got 3 import slots, right? Go get 3 imports, right? I don't understand why.
I guess they've spent a lot of money on guys like Golding and Travis and Delhi, especially. Those 3 guys will be taking up a massive chunk of salary. They might need to speak with the Sydney Kings accountant just to see if they can get any assistance there. I love that. Hey, by the way, where are your fancy headphones this week? What's going on?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I should have worn them. So I'll change it up with
all good.
So
Are you gonna let that Sydney Kings salary cap thing slide, or are you just gonna?
No. Look, I understand what you're saying, right? But there's a lot of great imports in NBL1. You commentate the NBL1, right? Guys who deserve a chance at a third import slot potentially, or on an NBL roster. I know you could rattle off a few names to me, so you don't have to go talk to the Sydney Kings accountant, as you would say. You can get an import on the cheap, is what I'm saying.
Of course, of course.
That's better than having a local who might not be as impactful, right?
And you can recruit by sort of position and by need, can't you? If you decide, look, we really need let's say a 3 or something like that, you can scale the NBL1 and try and get a 3 there at a pretty bargain sort of price there, and someone that's still going to help you. And like you said, probably going to be better than a local player or someone that's available at that position there. So.
And I know Jordan Hunter and Angus Glover, who are leaving the Kings, have been reported to be all linked with Southeast Melbourne. But there's a need for a big man now in Melbourne who probably could pay better than Southeast Melbourne.
Yeah, possibly.
So, until it's locked locked in. Jordan Hunter is an option, there as
Yeah.
well, right? Yeah.
Well, look, certainly a massive congrats to Tassie there. I thought it was a really good season this year, very competitive. We really thought Adelaide were going to win a handful of games, and they ended up being sort of a lot better than we thought. So I think it's really looking forward to next season. And look, we'll certainly keep everyone updated with the free agency news and all these sort of things as they come to hand. There's only been a handful of things like, you said Glover signing with Southeast and that sort of stuff, but we'll certainly, keep everyone updated with those sort of moves there. So, I guess.
Has he signed yet?
Well, it seems to be. I don't know whether he's well,
he's been let go by Sydney, and he's been.
He has, yeah. Maybe he's just in talks with them because I think basically, I think 15th. Okay, so I think we'll see a bit of a flurry of actual moves. It'll be what those ones where the handshake deal's been made, and then it will be official sort of in a week's time. So
15th of April.
So we'll keep everyone updated with that. Looking forward to see what happens there. So that kind of puts the NBL to bed for a little bit. We'll certainly go back each week and talk if there's any moves there. But let's go on to some NBA now, though, Woods. Look, we're just literally a week away from the NBA play-in tournament. A tournament that we're certainly going to be watching with interest, given our boys will be playing. Look, it doesn't feel like an amazing playoff race. I think I read today that Houston got knocked out. So all 20 teams, obviously play off and play in a set now. So they can't even change now with a week left, which is probably not how the league would like it. They love it when it goes down to those last few days there. Seeding is obviously still to be determined there, and that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Of course. But I wanted to maybe start off in the East there, Woods, and start with the team we saw live when we were away in Boston. They've got a remarkable 14-game lead over second place in the East, which is just probably not getting spoken about enough there. Give me two teams in the East that you think could challenge the Celtics in the playoffs.
I think it's about a 15 team lead now. Isn't Bucks on 47 and Celtics on 62 after yesterday?
Fair enough.
Might be 15. But have you ever seen a number 1 and number 2 seed be separated by 15 games?
No, it's a lot, isn't it?
And to answer your question, the one team that they don't want to meet in the first round, which they might, is the Heat. We saw what happened last year, right? 7-game series. The Heat, they can come from a lower seed and compete, right? So that's the one team that's a bit of their bogey team that I think would be tough. Honestly, you'd like to think a healthy Milwaukee would compete with Boston, but I'm not even sure that Milwaukee's going to get all the way through to the conference finals. They're up and down, and they haven't filled me with confidence this year. Like even a Magic or Knicks, obviously losing your boy Julius Randle for the season was a tough loss for them.
Yeah.
But all the metrics say that they're playing better without Julius Randle, So
I think you're right. I think Milwaukee should be the answer to this question, right? But I'm just not sure. The same with you. I think they've literally been playing 500 ball with Doc Rivers. We obviously saw the Bucks play as well, so we saw two of those big teams in the East. Not quite sure with them. Brook Lopez isn't playing as well as you probably like there. They've lost a lot defensively. Replacing Holiday with Dame Lillard. I've spoke about Lillard's defense on the show before there. Giannis is doing Giannis things, and it's good to see Middleton back. But I'm just not quite sure they've got that depth that can maybe sort of cover Boston there. So it'll be interesting. Look, I'd love the Hawks to get a chance to play the Celtics, in the playoffs if they can get out of that play in there. We've beaten them, the last 2 games there. We came back from 30 down to beat them, and then we had that amazing overtime game that we saw with DJ Murray getting that beautiful shot on the buzzer. Just quietly, Woods, DJ Murray, right? DeJounte Murray. How good is that guy to watch live?
He's awesome, right? He's awesome. And, the eye test when you see someone live is completely different.
Way better than he looked on TV, right? I thought.
And we saw Tobias Harris. We talked about how great he was. What a great player. What a fundamental player he is live, right? The same can be said about DeJounte Murray. They really stood out for us in terms of what we enjoyed watching on live, right? And he's an entertainer. He's an entertainer as well, which I like.
Yeah. So, look, it definitely seems like we both think Boston are going to, certainly, represent the East in the conference finals, in the NBA finals there. We'll see if there's any team that can maybe sort of, catch fire later in the year. Who knows? Like you said, could it be a random team like an Orlando or New York, even without Randall, if, Jalen Brunson puts up, video game numbers, maybe, but we'll see how that goes. But let's take it to the West as well. You got something else? Yeah?
Quickly on the East, just before we move on to the East, onto the West, the Bucks are at 47 wins as the number 2 seed, right? And then all the way down to the number 8 seed, Heat, on 43 wins. So there's a massive logjam there, and most teams still have 4 games left.
Yeah.
So this could really. I know you said that the 20 teams are locked in, but that East could really change.
No, it is. And you could see teams potentially, say there's a team that they don't want to come against and they're like, all right, we don't want to face them in this round and that. We could see a little bit of, some random sort of, ankle injuries and other things popping up late in the season. I mean, later the season's already a bit of a crapshoot anyway with some of these players. But, yeah, the actual race for seeding should be interesting, right? So, even more so in the West, right? So, currently there's only 4 games separating the top 4 seeds, which is pretty remarkable there, right? I want to talk about 2 of the teams that they're likely. There's maybe a chance that the Lakers move up, but looking like 2 of the more popular teams in the NBA, and the Lakers and Warriors could both be in the play-in there. So how do you think that would be if both those teams would make the play-in, right? That would probably put a lot more eyes on this play-in tournament. And do you think either of those teams I mentioned could eventually make a deep playoff run in the West?
Look, whoever's facing the Nuggets in that first round, because the Nuggets are second now, I think, from memory. I think Timberwolves are just first, Nuggets second, Thunder third from memory. Yeah. So I think if the Lakers or the Warriors face the Timberwolves or the Thunder in the first round, then I'd back either of them to win that series potentially, right? But I think
you back them to beat a team with Nas Reed.
I would back them. I would back them. I would give them a chance. Let's say, all right. Yeah. I would give them a chance, right? I think Denver would just turn it on and beat both those teams. So it's still up in the air, though. You look at those standings. I mean, I'm just looking at them now. Warriors 43, Lakers 45, Kings 45, Pelicans 46, Suns 46, Mavericks 48 even. So technically, if the Mavericks lose their last few games, then the Lakers still got a chance to go as high as 5th or 6th if results fall their way. So you don't know that for sure that those 2 teams are going to be 9 and 10. Right?
Yeah, no, we'll certainly see. It's going to be an interesting last week of action, isn't it? Quite like the Pelicans team. I think if they're healthy, they're a team I probably wouldn't want to be facing in the playoffs there. One team I really can't work out is Phoenix. They're sort of obviously got a lot of talent on that team. I feel like they could beat anyone on their day, but I'm just not quite sure what you get from them. And the Clippers is probably the other one as well, Woods. We saw 2 home games to the Clippers and they lost to, lower ranked opponents there. So, can they put that all together? They play a lot of one-on-one type game, don't they? If they can suddenly start sharing the ball and working it around more and actually playing as a team, maybe they could be a team. But no, really looking forward to it. It's sort of good, isn't it? Obviously, NBL finishes and there's a bit of a void there, but then we get all this NBA playoff stuff coming up there. So, look, before we move on to some quick hits, any more thoughts and any more NBA stuff you wanted to
The
talk
Suns,
about?
man. You mentioned the Suns, right? Bradley Beal is just not that good.
No,
okay? He's not very good anymore, right? He's been injured for years in Washington. They said, let's create this big 3, right?
Yeah.
That's not been the case. It has not worked out, right? Not having a point guard on that roster. As you said, I'm not sure about them. When you do have a Bradley Beal, a Devin Booker, and a Kevin Durant come playoff time, you still don't want to face them in a 7-game series. But much like Milwaukee in the East, Phoenix are the same. I get the same vibe from them, right? I'm not convinced, right? So
fair call. No, we'll certainly be watching that with interest. And like we said, although the 20 teams are set for the playoffs and playing, there's a lot of seeding stuff that could be important. So certainly be watching these games. It was annoying today with no game. Obviously, we'll talk about why there was no NBA games today, but I'm sure there'll be a lot sort of coming up. So let's get into some quick hits then, Woods. Got quite a few things to sort of talk about in the quick hits section there. So let's start off with some NCAA, right? I feel like we both probably watched quite a bit of that when we were in the US there. Let's start off with the women's. Look, that was certainly, to me, a lot more entertaining and exciting than the men's competition there. So in the women's, yesterday we saw South Carolina beating Caitlin Clark's Iowa 87-75. So that completed a perfect 38-0 season. So for South Carolina, which is just remarkable there. But talk to me about the women's game at the moment, right? We've sort of seen some of these names and watched some of these games. You've got players like Caitlin Clark, you've got freshman Juju Watkins, you've got Paige Buckers, you've got Angel Reese has already declared for the WNBA draft. How good is women's basketball at the moment?
Unbelievable, and especially at the college level, it's entertaining. It's a great brand of basketball that people want to come and watch, right? And I think it was a record crowd yesterday. What was the crowd for the game yesterday? I was reading that. It was something like 18.7 million viewers tuned in to watch that. Right?
Yeah, it was evident when we were there, right? A lot of people were talking about it. You go to any bar, casino, anywhere like that, all women's games are on, people were crowding around. So it doesn't feel like that, translates to, people supporting women's basketball in Australia. But I thought it was great to see personally.
Yeah, and these young players you mentioned, right? Like Caitlin Clark. They're like little young girls aspire to be like them. They're role
Yeah.
models, guys, girls that are going to, be brand names and recognizable to everyone, right? So I
Yeah.
think having those characters as well helps in addition to the quality of play and the brand of basketball that we're seeing in the women's game at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly good to see, and a very, very exciting season. Well, look, the men's season finished today. UConn, quite convincing win there, sort of 75-60 over Purdue. Yeah, I know we both watched that game, Woods, in between, doing our busy sort of, real jobs that we do. I didn't think it was a great game personally. What were your thoughts, firstly, on this game?
Yeah, look, I mean, it was a great crowd. I think it's third biggest crowd in NCAA history, finals history, 74,000 or something like that live at the in the stadium. But yeah, as you said, the 75-60. I did quite enjoy some of the guys on the UConn team. I mentioned Tristan Newton to you. Stephon Castle, Donovan Clingan. There's three guys here that are going to be entering the NBA draft, and most likely all three are going to be drafted next year. So I really enjoyed the way they played. And so there's some individual brilliance there, but it's very methodical, the men's game, unlike the women's game.
Low scoring, a lot of using that shot clock. Did you see how many threes that Purdue hit in that game, by the way?
Not many, right?
One. One 3-pointer made for the game. There was one. They took 7. They were 1 of 7 for the game. I mean, that is like, what is this, 1980? That's unbelievable, that stats. I mean, yes, of course, they've got a massive guy in the middle who took 25 of their 54 shots, but I don't think you're going to win. I mean, we know the whole 3 is worth more than 2 argument there, but one made 3-pointer, that's got to be some sort of a record there. So, yeah.
Zach Edey and Braden Smith had 50 out of the 60 points, right?
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Well, let's talk about Zach Edey. I know we talked a little bit about him sort of offline on the trip there, because I find him a very interesting player, right? So the 7'4" Canadian centre, he's going to be in the NBA draft this year. Look, he's had a record season, Woods. Today's game, 37 points, 10 rebounds. Didn't have any assists, but probably doesn't need to. He's got that jump hook down pat there. Maybe probably needs to develop a little bit more of a game there. What are your thoughts there? A lot of experts saying, look, he'll be lucky to be drafted midway through the second round. You look at a guy that's 7'4", that's putting up, 37 in an NCAA, final game there. Why do you think his game might not translate to the NBA?
I've seen some projections having him go late in the first round as well, right? So maybe let's see what happens. But you look at a guy like that, this team just feeds him, on every play, right? And at the college level where it's methodical and slow, he's putting up numbers, but numbers don't necessarily mean that that's going to translate to being a great NBA player. He's a throwback center, right? He likes to play with his back to the basket. He can finish with the hook over the right shoulder or the left shoulder. He needs to improve that left-hand finish for sure. He's got a nice drop step, some nice footwork. He's a great rim protector, but the game has passed centers like that by, in my opinion, right? He doesn't stretch the floor much. His game is more suited to the FIBA brand of basketball, right? So I can't see him having an impact in the. He'll
be pretty important for Canada in this upcoming Olympics, won't he, as well, just given his size. I'm going to put an argument forward for him, Woods. 2 of the big guys we saw in this recent trip we've done, manning the middle there, we saw Zubats for the Clippers. How did that court announcer say his name? I know you like that.
Ivica Zubac.
I know you're excited every time I did that. And then we saw big Clint Capella for the Hawks, right? So both of those guys, although not as big as Edey, look, I think they play pretty similar games, don't they? They're not that athletic, although Capella can run the floor pretty well. They don't even look to shoot it even sort of inside the free throw line. Like, literally, we saw Zubac in those games. He'd get the ball inside the free throw line. He wouldn't even be looking at the ring. So I saw how dominant those guys can be. And, literally, they're walking double-doubles, those guys, Capella and Zubac there. So maybe that gave me a little bit of hope that someone like Zach Edey could come in.
I'll tell you the difference there. Those guys run the floor. They set picks, run to the rim, they're lob threats, right?
Yeah.
Zach Edey wants the ball to be fed to him in the post. He wants to methodically work away and find his way to score, right?
Yeah.
You know, if he wants to be successful in the NBA, he'd do well to look at the likes of a Mitch Robinson, a Clint Capella, a Ivica Zubac, right? Run the floor, set screens, be a lob threat, you know? Pick up the pieces, right? You can't expect him to like stand in the post and expect the guards to just throw it in.
He's got some athleticism, Wood. So, you know, I don't think he's someone that's, you know, that looks like he's going to fall down every time he tries to run up the court. He's got some athleticism there. I think he'd probably be a coachable guy too. So we'll see how he goes, right?
He'd have to adapt. He'd have to adapt his game. He's got the tools and the skill set. Obviously, he's an elite rim protector. I know Purdue play with the drops coverage. That's not going to work in the NBA, right? So he's got the tools to make it in the NBA, but he's got to adapt his game and make some changes to the way he played at the college
He's
level.
probably come on about 25 years too late, right? I mean, you imagine, like, you know, back in the 90s, he would have been a sure number one pick, you know, someone that had these sort of numbers in college now, but the game's changed, you know, it's an inside sort of game now, and you need speed, shooting, all those things from your big guy there.
He's an above average passer as well. So that's
I mean, he didn't have any assists today, but he's not like he's fine. You know, he shoots 70% from the free throw line, so he's not like a guy out there that doesn't have any sort of skills and just finishes with these jump hooks. So, yeah, I think he'll be an interesting player to follow there. I hope it does, you know, work out for him there, and, you know, he obviously has a decent career. Look, the next thing on the list, Woods, the Hall of Fame was announced this week, right? 3 people that I know we were really pleased to see make it. Former Atlanta Hawk, as well as obviously, you know, a few other clubs, including, you know, the Raps and the Mavs there. Vince Carter, I thought that was great to see him make it. Chauncey Billups made it. He was one of those ones when I saw the name, I'm like, oh, really? Chauncey Billups? And then I read the resume and went, no, cool, I'm happy with that. No, his resume stands up there. The one I wanted to ask you about, though, is a former special guest of the podcast, right? One of our earlier sort of guests, one of those ones that we were really sort of nervous to have her on. She was so nice and great to sort of get to know her, Michelle Timms. So how good was that for Timsy being named to the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, we knew that was coming, right? You know, so I'm just really proud of her and proud of our country and our nation to have another Australian in the Hall of Fame. There's not many, right?
No.
Who else do we have? Lindsay Gaze.
I think she's the third, right? Lindsay, Andrew, and Timsy. Unless I've forgotten someone, and I apologise there, but
yeah. Just the Gazes and Timsy, I think. Right.
Yeah, and well deserved as well. Look, she's been retired out of the game for a while, sort of thing. But no, I thought that was great to see that, wasn't it? So no, massive respect. And Vince Carter's probably the other one, Woods. I mean, such a long career there. You know, he had Olympic success. He had success with the Mavericks there. I loved him on those Hawks teams there, mentoring some of the younger guys. They loved having him as well. So, yeah, big fan of Vince Carter, and was pleased to see that.
Might wear my Vince Carter Hawks jersey next week. I don't think I've worn that.
That's a nice random one.
Yeah. Just out of respect for him being inducted in the Hall of Fame, right?
That is a good one. Nice. Well, last thing I wanted to talk about in the NBA thing. If you recall, we were on a flight from Vegas to LA. When was that now? It's probably about a week ago now, just under a week. We had the in-flight Wi-Fi on that was working quite well, and we were following the Detroit Pistons and Atlanta game. Malachi Flynn. Malachi Flynn scored 50 points in that game. So, look, there may be people that's listening to this or watching this now that probably don't even know who Malachi Flynn is. Josh Hart, I don't know if you saw that, Woods. I literally laughed out loud when I said it. Did you see what Josh Hart called him?
No, tell me.
He said he was Dante DiVincenzo's evil twin. And there was a picture of them both. Obviously, Dante DiVincenzo is a bit better looking, a bit sort of, and like Malachi Flynn's a bit of a funny looking guy. So his evil twin, I thought that was an amazing call there. We've spoken about these 50-point games on the show in the past. That to me is the most remarkable one that's ever happened. Just to sum up what this guy is like. So his next 2 games, so the direct game after the 50-point, he was none of 12. And then the game after that, he was 1 of 7. So he scored a combined 6 points in 2 games after that 50-point explosion. What the hell was that?
I mean, the hot hand is a real thing, right? Every now and again, maybe once in your life, you'll get into that zone that's unthinkable. You've been in
Malachi Flynn, Woods, come on.
I know, man. I know. He'll remember it. It, right? Is it enough for him to stay in the league? Maybe it is, right?
I've heard a lot of people say they were getting texts and alerts saying Malachi Flynn, and everyone's like, oh, right, the Raptors. And they're like, no, hang on, he was with the Raptors. He got traded to, that's right, Detroit. So, yeah, just amazing. And the fact that he went none for 12 in the game after that's just crazy. So, yeah, I thought we had to mention that. I know we're fans of, these 50-point explosions that some of these guys have had. Your Tony Delks and your Corey Brewers and stuff, but that's got to be the most crazy one.
While you mentioned his name, Dante DiVincenzo, balling out, man. Like, how good has he been playing this year?
Yeah.
And just I love what he brings to the table. And when we look back to that classic NCAA finals today, right?
Yeah.
I think back to that final.
Yeah,
Really made
Villanova, right? Yeah,
Villanova, and you see him now. So shout out to Dante DiVincenzo.
No, definitely, and the evil twin. I thought that was a great call, Malachi Flynn. Great call there. I like that. Well, look, I thought we'd just quickly finish off this quick hit section. Woods, NBL1 is back now. All the leagues have pretty much started. I know certainly had a lot of interest in the NBL1 East starting over the weekend there. So I think this season of NBL1 in all the conferences is going to be the best one yet. I'll throw you a couple of names that we're going to see in the East that I'm going to be covering this year, Woods. Lauren Jackson, Ash Hannon, Nicole Munger, Lauren Nicholson, Vanessa Panousis, Leilani Mitchell. Some pretty decent names there, right? I've heard of a few of those ladies before. And in the men's, we've got the likes of Jai Smith, who I believe is a half-brother of Ben Simmons, Dave O'Hickey, who just balled out in the first two games, Wiley Bales, MVP, Will Cranston Lown from last year. So, look, both of these men's and women's in the East have absolutely loaded up on imports as well, Woods. I know for the Hills Hornets that I cover, last year they had one import between two teams. This year they've got two imports on each team. Are you going to be attending a few games with me, right, this year?
Definitely. When's the first game? 2 weeks, right?
So, yeah, first home game. So it's a bit of a strange schedule quirk. So Hills are on the road for the first 3 weeks. Their first home game is against COE on the 27th of April. So I know we loved seeing COE last year. You came to that game, get to see some of these the future of Australian basketball there, and we're going to see some stars on that. They're still sort of getting these rosters finalised there where they didn't play last week. But, yeah, really, really happy it's back. Shout out to Matt McQuaid and Mookie as well. They were nice enough to give me a bit of a shout out in the Inner West against Hills game there. Two guys we absolutely love there, and two of the best in the business in the commentary as well there. So looking forward to that. We'll probably do a few little raps here and there about the NBL one, but great that it's back on. And look, I say it all the time, Woods, people get out and watch it. You can watch all the games live and free online. You can get out and watch your local team there. It's really good competition. What was that message I might have sent you today? I said, this NCAA final, I'd much prefer to watch NBL 1 than this. It's such a better style of basketball than this pass the ball around for 30 seconds then feed it into a big guy to throw a jump hook. So, yeah, everyone get out and support the NBL 1 there. So, all right, well, that's a pretty long, quick hit section, Woods. I enjoyed talking about some of that, but we might finish off the show with something we love doing in classic packs, right?
Yeah,
I think
taking some of those cards home from.
I did, yeah, the NBL cards. I've got to sort them out. Once I get to the new place, I want to get a bit of a dedicated card area. But I believe this pack might have even gone on the trip with us and remained unopened, right? If it's the one I'm thinking, or have you got another one?
I left that one. I changed it up.
Okay, change it up, yeah.
I found this. I got the Panini Contenders.
Ooh,
There's
interesting.
8 cards in it. 21, 22.
Ooh, we got a newer pack.
I didn't even know I had it. There's only 8 cards in here, but it's
cool,
a newer
nice.
pack. I thought, let's change it up.
Yeah, sounds good. They're one of the main sort of producers of cards these days, the Panini brand there. So, all right, cool. What do we got here? Well, at least we know we're not going to be getting like a Danny Manning or some of these other random ones that we get in a lot of these older packs. So, yeah, bring it on.
Okay, this is a season ticket Orlando Magic card. This player, I don't know, he's of African descent. He's still in the league. I think he might be on the Phoenix Suns. I'm not even sure who he's with. I saw him on a box score yesterday. He got a DNP CD, number 37.
Should know that with a random number like that. No, give me that one, Woods. It's not coming to mind.
It's a season ticket card, right? And I've got Chuma Okeke.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. Probably one I completely forgot about that guy. Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. They've all got season tickets on them. So what does this even mean? Season ticket. Seat 3, row 68, section 230.
Maybe they're all going to be that way. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I got seat 2, row 69, section 250. This is his 21-22 card when he was with the Brooklyn Nets. An absolute veteran. Finished off his career with the Boston Celtics last year. At the end of the bench, just being a veteran. The Boston Celtics are back this year, but he's got.
I think I saw a photo of him working in Walmart now, or an extremely good lookalike. Yeah, Blake Griffin, right?
Blake Griffin.
Nice, interesting cards. So they're all the same. They're all like that, are they?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they even mean.
Strange.
Seat 0, row 63, section 200. Maybe it refers to something. Anyway, I've got this guy is really found a nice home for himself at the LA Clippers. We just spoke about his jersey not being readily available in the store. One of your favorites.
Russ.
And this is his Lakers card, Russell Westbrook.
Nice. That's the card I'll have to grab off here, yeah. You see that alley-oop he threw down yesterday as well off a pass. Love the guy, the way he plays.
And I love his attitude and the way he's really fitted into that Clippers system.
Didn't the crowd love him in LA as well? Obviously a hometown sort of boy. They were loving when he came back for that game against the Pacers.
Really disappointed with this guy. Plays for Cleveland. This season, okay, the stats have been okay, but the eye test has not been great. All-star last year for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Really,
Darius Garland.
Really taken a step back this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, it sort of felt like he could have gone the other way, couldn't he? He was so good last year. But Cleveland are a funny team as well. We spoke about all those teams in the East earlier, Woods. That was one of those teams that, is going to be probably in the top 6 that we didn't even mention, right? So, yeah, interesting.
I think they've gone 11 and 17 in the last 28, as I was reading. I think
interesting.
So. That's they're still holding on. So they started the season really well. Okay, I got a season ticket card here for Miami Heat. He basically fell out of the rotation a few years ago, and then last year when Miami was injured, he stepped up, and he's a flamethrower. And now he's
Duncan Robinson.
He's starting for the Heat. Duncan Robinson probably taken away from Patty Mills' minutes. Yeah.
True. He's one of those guys that kind of surprised me. A Michigan product there. He's actually got a little bit more game than just that shooting there. He can drive to the basket. He's got a bit of sneaky size on him as well. So he's a pretty important player to have for a team like the Heat, I think. For
sure. Yeah, I agree. All right, this guy is a veteran, was a former Rookie of the Year with the Bucks, played alongside Giannis and Delhi, then went to the Pacers, injury-riddled history, was at the Celtics last year, won Sixth Man of the Year.
Yeah, the president, Malcolm Brogdon.
Yep, Malcolm Brogdon. We spoke on a previous episode.
Yeah, if anyone's wondering about that reference there, if you listen to that guy talk, he sounds identical to Barack Obama. Like I'm talking, if you could just hear it and you didn't know, you couldn't see, you wouldn't know if it was Barack Obama or Brogdon there. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a pretty funny one. Another one of those players that we didn't get to see for Portland because he was riding the bench with his street clothes on, right? Yeah.
We did speak about the kind of role he needs to play mentoring Scoot Henderson, right?
For sure, yeah.
Love this guy. Probably the best looking player in the NBA, right? Loves to shoot it, Never seen a shot that doesn't.
Is this a guy we saw playing for Philadelphia possibly? Or
no, Denver Nuggets.
No.
Starter.
Oh, Jamal Murray.
No.
Michael Porter Jr.?
MPJ, man.
I thought Kelly Oubre was the best looking guy in the NBA.
No, I reckon Michael Porter Jr.
You reckon Michael Porter? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
All right, I've got an international ticket here. Seat 9, row 62, 185. I'm going to have to look up what this means, by the way.
Yeah.
Seat numbers on these Panini cards.
Yeah.
Absolute legend. French champion, retired. Had one random season at the Hornets at the end of a storied career.
Tony Parker.
As the Detroit announcer would say at the Palace of Auburn Hills, Tony Parker.
Nice. Well, I'm glad he's wearing that Spurs jersey and not wearing that Hornets one because that never quite looked right. So, yeah, interesting pack, right? Like you said, you do a bit of research and find out what the reason for all those tickets were and stuff like that. But yeah, good to have a more recent pack as well and sort of talk about some guys that are currently there. So yeah, nice one. All right, mate. Well, enjoyed the show again. It's nice to be back on home soil now. It was a great trip, but I think you always kind of miss home, right? So it's nice to be back and everything like that. What about you? Do you think you behaved yourself on holiday? What do you think your form was like?
Yeah, I thought I was pretty good, man. Why are you going
Pretty
to
behaved.
last and bring this up in front of all those?
Well, people like to hear about our trip. Was there a couple of nights that I potentially was referring to you as Jonathan Bender when you were having a couple of big nights? But
Dragon Bender,
Yeah, any of those two. Yeah. No, you were well behaved. And look, it was great travelling with you, Woods. I know we definitely want to do this again one day. And I'm sure we could pick some other cities, but then also end up in Atlanta again. That was just amazing, the way the schedule worked. They had 3 games in 4 nights there. So that was pretty cool. I think Atlanta suited us, didn't it? The music there, the people. It was definitely a city that I think sort of spoke with us there. So, no, it was great sort of sharing those experiences. So, all right, we'll go to a bit of an outro now. So, I wanted to thank everyone again just for tuning in, subscribing, giving us all the feedback that you do, and we really appreciate your support there. We can be followed on X at Throwback Hoops, Instagram, throwback.hoops, and our email address, throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. Send any requests through there. Obviously, the NBL season's finished. If you've got any jerseys you want to see us rock or any sort of particular topics, feel free to send those through, and we'll try and do that. Thanks for everyone that supports us on Patreon there. If you want to pledge any support to us, a couple of dollars a month really help us with the production, editing, and all those expenses with the podcast. So I'll throw it over to yourself there, Woods. Any final words, any words of wisdom or anything you've got for us?
No, look, thanks for everyone following us on our socials during our trip and supporting us. No, not much, man. Oh, we've got to talk about meeting Lee Ellis. How much of an honour was that?
Yes, let's finish off with that. Yes, so look, we were supposed to be going to a game with Lee. There were some technical difficulties with the reception at State Farm Arena, but we caught up with him a couple of days later. We went to Revolution Donuts in Atlanta. Great donuts there, I've got to say. And look, it was really good catching up with Lee. We obviously had him on the show, and I've been in touch with him, just via messages and that, but it just felt like we were catching up with an old friend, didn't it? We caught up with him for, well over an hour and had a real good chat with him there. It was great to hear how well he's going, everything else like that. So, shout out to Lee there, and what a great bloke, right, Woods?
What a great bloke, yeah. One of the highlights of my trip as well. So
that was awesome, yeah.
Yeah, but apart from that, thanks to everyone. We're going to keep doing our thing. We'll be back next week.
For sure. Looking forward to it. All right, well, yeah, big peace out from the Throwback Hoops crew. We'll do it all again next week.